Now allow me to reintroduce myself. They call me J-O-N to the easy E-N. Know that we undefeated, y'all are beneath them speeches trying to air a grievance. But his lines are overhead, better check the air for clearance. Call the tower, this is our credit. He the heir apparent, really I've never been better. Legacy, this is forever. All the more times I've been severed, I'm raising the bar, you can go ahead and measure. Think about time for a toast, time that we welcome to go. Yo, when just leaving, I think about time that somebody go get on their coat.
Mike, I'll tell you what, man. I was already super excited to talk to you about the Jacksonville Jaguars. And now I'm even more pumped up after that video, man.
I'll never get tired of it.
I love it. But welcome to the Fantasy Six Pack 2023 NFL team previews. I am Dave Eddy, joined here by my boy Mike LaPlant. Today we're going to be talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars. Before we jump into things, please go ahead and take a quick moment for us. Drop a like on here if you're a Jaguars fan, if you like offense, or if you've been enjoying these, team previews. If you aren't already an all-access member with us, head on over to fantasysixpack.net/plans and sign up. You're going to get access to our award-winning rankings, our projections, all sorts of DFS content, which I do a bunch of that. And then not to mention, you're going to get invited to join our private Discord channel, where each one of us will be right there at your fingertips to ask any and all questions that you have. We love the league-specific ones because those always can be quite complicated and actually quite fun. But, Mike, I know we could talk about these guys for literally 3 hours. We talked offline about, how much we like so many pieces of this team.
Yes.
So let's hop into this and let's get us rocking, man. And we're going to start off with the quarterbacks. And I know that we both have the same feeling about Trevor Lawrence. So it'll be fun to talk about him.
To the moon.
God forbid they ever have to play CJ Beathard. But let's focus here. Trevor Lawrence. I absolutely love Trevor Lawrence. You absolutely love Trevor Lawrence. I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but on all sincerity, if he finished this season as QB1, I would be not the least bit shocked. Now, that's not me saying that I think that, he's going to end up there, but I think you're crazy if you don't think that the ceiling is there for him, not just his talent, but all of the weapons that he has around him. So I really want to know, how much do you love Trevor Lawrence? Is it equal to mine? And where do you expect for him to fall this year in the QB hierarchy?
I won't lie. I thought it was equal, but with the I do think it's a little hot takey to say he would finish his QB1 because he's coming up, going against Mahomes, Hurts, Allen. Like
he's got
these
more
are all
weapons than
established
Mahomes.
Guys.
He's got as many weapons as Hurts.
I don't disagree with that. Just those guys got more experience. They've done it before. That's my only thing. Is I'm a big fan of have you done it before? But here's the thing. For the most part, as like we're talking, top 5 QBs, I love
easy.
Trevor Lawrence this year. I really do think he's easily going to be a top 5 quarterback. Him and Justin Fields are the 2 QBs I'm probably targeting most this year as far as like my early best ball drafts. Like I'm just gobbling up as much shares as them as I can, and I'm even getting them in some redrafts when time comes. But in the last 8 games played last year for Trevor Lawrence, when he actually started getting hot, they made their playoff run. He was QB5, only behind Hurts, Fields, Mahomes, and Burrow. Notice how Fields was in there as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this kid is definitely going to go off this year with the bold move they made of acquiring, Calvin Ridley.
We'll talk about that.
So just, the addition of him, one more year of built chemistry in Doug Peterson's offense, Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, Evan Engram, you got Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby. It's just, it's a wealth of weapons here for Trevor Lawrence, where I just think, honestly, the ceiling is QB1, but the floor is at least QB5.
As long as he's healthy, I would have a hard time seeing him. I mean, top 5 is probably pretty safe, but
that's the safest. Like that's the one I can go the furthest. I will, guarantee type of deal. I think he's a top 5, and when I finish my rankings, he will be a top 5 quarterback.
Yeah, I would have a hard time even putting him at 5 if I were doing rankings. There's nothing he cannot do. if he wanted to go out and just run the ball and rack up some rushing yards, like, I mean, he's athletic enough that he absolutely could go out there. Now, granted, no, he's not Justin Fields, but if he really wanted to go out there and decide, hey, I'm gonna rush for 750 yards this year, I don't think he would have a problem. Like,
I wouldn't doubt it.
Not his game, obviously. It's not even,
he does what's necessary. He's a quarterback that, and this is why I like him, is like he's one of the guys, like when he first came into the league, like I loved him as an NFL quarterback. Like we were going to see what he was going to be as a fantasy quarterback. And last year he showed it in the last stretch of the half. But as far as NFL quarterback goes, like the great ones spread the ball out. All right. So like I do think, because he has this wealth of weapons, I do think easily top 6, top 5, in my opinion, just because of he's a former number 1 overall pick. He is the highest prospect to come out since Peyton Manning. Like, yeah,
literally a generational type quarterback,
and he finally has a coach that knows what to do with him. Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson made Carson Wentz an MVP candidate. All right. Now he's got Trevor Lawrence. So like I know you're big into betting. I'm curious how much money you have on, Trevor Lawrence possibly being an MVP this year. Like
I haven't really done much. I mean, the only bet that I have right now is I do have, and we talked about this as well, I do have a Jaguars versus Lions Super Bowl matchup bet. Again, it's a couple bucks just to have fun, but
the odds are probably
Trevor Lawrence to win MVP. I like it, and I will be doing it before our next preview. But we have to move on here, Mike. We've got to move over here to these running backs because, again, like every position group, I am so excited in each one of these, man. We start off with Travis Etienne, who I was so excited for him to come back last year because of that chemistry that he already had with Trevor Lawrence. Now we get Tank Bigsby in the mix here. We'll talk about that here in a second. We got Michael Hasty, Dearness Johnson, Snoopaloop Connor. But like I said, man, so high heading into last year on Etienne, and I don't think he disappointed at all. It took him a few weeks to take over the job. Once he did, absolutely dynamite, man. Managed to finish 8th in the league in rushing yards, and the numbers don't exactly portray it, but the dude is a true weapon in the passing game. Then we're a little bit caught off guard. Draft rolls around. They draft Bigsby in the 3rd round. And, first of all, this guy has got like the best name in football, right? Like a running back, Tank Bigsby. Get out of here, dude. Like that's amazing.
That's a nickname. No, that's his actual name.
That's amazing though, right? Like you couldn't, like if I was starting like a Madden, and I had to like create a player, like it'd be Tank Bigsby. Like it's so awesome. But now we're hearing all sorts of rumors, that I don't know that he would necessarily unseat Etienne, but he's going to get, potentially a lot more run than people are going to be, comfortable with it if you're an Etienne fan. So I feel like there's no way that this is going to be any worse. Worst case scenario, 60-40 backfield share in the favor of Etienne. But again, so many rumors flying around. I really need to know what you think as far as how this backfield is going to end up shaking out, man.
Plain and simple, as far as like the draft value, I'm out on Etienne this year, just because he's going like really high in drafts. All right. So like when I draft people, I draft them at their floor, not their ceiling. And he's kind of being drafted at a ceiling right now because of, like you said, I believe there's going to be a split share here. All right.
Peterson, what is it going to be,
And that's kind of the thing is worst case scenario, it's 60-40. If he gets lucky, it's 70-30. All right. But at the same time, the biggest thing here in a Doug Peterson offense, because he loves to run multiple backs, which, it's shown when he was an Eagles coach, it's really going to depend on his touchdowns. And if, Tank Bigsby's the guy that they brought in, kind of like Snoop Connor, they brought in last year in the same round, 3rd round, obviously they're not a big fan of Snoop Connor. So they went and got this, Tank Bigsby, big dude, to be this red zone threat. I think Etienne's kind of the in between the 20s guy to, just chew up yardage. But I don't see him getting much of the red zone carries, in my opinion.
Probably not. I mean, Lawrence can run the ball in. We're about to get to all the weapons that he has to throw the ball to. So, yes, touchdown equity is not going to be in Etienne's favor.
So it's like, I see him more as an RB, a solid RB2 because the offense is going to flourish this year. So there is chance for touchdowns. He's explosive. Maybe he gets a couple outside of the red zone, and then it gets a little bit of work in the red zone type of deal. But there's so many variables here with so many other weapons. So it's
Sure.
a safe RB2, low end RB2 type of deal for me at least.
And let's talk about some of those other weapons here when we
The
pull
fun
up
part.
these wide receivers, because I mean we got a hell of a list here, man. Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, former Lion Jamal Agnew, Tim Jones, Kevin Austin Jr. This is just like the rich getting richer, because I thought they had an outstanding passing game last year. You take away the Marvin Jones, add in Calvin Ridley. I mean, sure, huge gamble for the Jags to deal for him. Pun absolutely intended there. But with him joining Kirk, and Jones, I don't know how anyone's going to slow him down. Like, they have 3 legitimate wide receivers on this team. And for fantasy purposes, though, I kind of wonder, is this going to end up being a too many cooks in the kitchen kind of thing? Trevor Lawrence likes to spread the ball around, like we said. So what is the trust level that we have in these guys? Because obviously from a fantasy perspective, we don't like to have so many options for Lawrence. If you're a real life Jaguars fan, it's amazing. But for fantasy purposes, it gets a little nerve wracking. What do you think?
I agree with you. I mean, as far as fantasy purposes are concerned, the only one I trust to be consistently week in, week out is Trevor Lawrence in this offense because of all the weapons he has. All right. Now, here's the thing, though. Zay Jones saw 21% of the target share last year, and I fully expect Ridley to just come in and take all of that. All right.
I
wonder
what the rust factor will look like.
That's agreed.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it'll be interesting. And to me, I think DFS purposes, right? And what this reminds me of is the last couple of years with Tom Brady in Tampa Bay, where Godwin or Evans, one of them is going to have a big game. Sometimes they both have a big game, but one of them is. And for DFS, it's flip a coin. Is it going to be Evans or Godwin this week? Usually I played the guy who was cheaper. I think you're going to have the same thing here with Ridley and Kirk to go, who's it going to be this week,
Yeah, and I do agree with you. And honestly, next year I see that this is how that offense will be. This year, though, I'm the most consistent about Christian Kirk. I mean, they are pretty much going at the same price. Wide receiver 22 for Kirk, wide receiver 23 for Calvin Ridley. And Calvin Ridley is 53rd overall, so it's 52nd overall for Kirk. So they're right next to each other, according to fantasy data. One has a year of chemistry and a year of knowing Doug Peterson's offense. That's Christian Kirk. And one is just very talented. So there is a rust factor here, but there's also, they got to build chemistry. Calvin Ridley's got to learn the offense. So as far as consistently, I don't trust Calvin Ridley consistently. I love him in best ball this year because you don't gotta choose when you're gonna play him. Exactly. But as far as redraft purposes, give me Christian Kirk all day because I think he will be the most consistent receiver in this offense outside, just player outside of Trevor Lawrence.
And all this Ridley and Kirk talk, and we got a guy like Zay Jones who literally won me thousands of dollars last year by having some absolutely massive games, and now he's almost an afterthought on this offense, and that's crazy, and it's even more crazy because now we're going to move on to tight ends, and now we're going to be looking at Evan Engram over here, another guy who had a good season last year. Now we've got some nonsense here. We got Brenton Strange. We got Luke Farrell. So, we're obviously going to focus here on Evan Engram. And, like I said, man, wide receiver room is just ridiculously stacked. And then you add in a tight end that finished 3rd in the league in receptions for tight ends and 4th for tight ends and yards as well last year. So, again, absolutely unfair for opposing defenses to have to try to defend all these guys. And all these weapons is, again, why I said I will not be shocked one tiny bit if Trevor Lawrence ends up the QB1 this year. The real question here, as far as the tight ends are concerned, is can Evan Engram stay healthy? If he can stay healthy, I don't see why he wouldn't continue that breakout from last year. But he has consistently had injury-riddled seasons. And it's just been frustrating because, the lack of consistency just isn't there because he's always hurt. So what Evan Engram are we going to end up with this year, Mike?
As far as injuries are concerned, that's just completely unpredictable. But, when you don't get somebody like Kelsey or Andrews in your draft, you're going to hear this from me, up and down whatever video I'm up, on podcast on. You got to target somebody who's possibly going to lead their offenses in targets and catches. Mm-hmm. All right. Now, we just went over the plethora. Yeah, exactly. Good example.
Yeah.
We just went through the plethora of options on this team. Yeah, sure. There's a possibility Evan Engram could be the target, and catch leader on this team. But I think the odds are more in favor of possibly Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk. Absolutely. Hell, even Zay Jones, I think, has a better chance of leading this, team in catches and targets than Evan Engram. So that's kind of where I'm a little off Engram as far as redraft purposes. Because it's going to be hell. He's going to have a good week, a bad week, a bad week, good week, bad. And you're going to pull your hair out deciding if you need to, even play him or not. So that's why, I prefer to, target somebody, like you said, Dalton Schultz. Maybe somebody we're going to talk about in our next preview with the Tennessee Titans, Shiga Konkwu from the Titans. This is possibly a guy who could, another guy who could possibly lead their team in targets and catches. A couple more rounds later. So, a round earlier, you even got Darren Waller, on the Giants. So, another person that can lead their team in targets and catches. So, I love Engram as an NFL talent, but as far as fantasy-wise, I think he takes a step back this year, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think he kind of has to. And this I will present as a hot take. Would not shock me in the very least. I'm not calling for it, but maybe I should. I could see Etienne having more catches than Evan Engram this year. So,
wouldn't surprise me.
Something to chew on. It's going to be fun to watch the Jaguars this year. They're absolutely loaded, and I'm really looking forward to it, man. But, Mike, I appreciate you talking some Jaguars with me. I appreciate everyone tuning in for the video here. Drop a like on here for us real quick, and we'll see you for the next video.
Good luck.